The city of Nocturnis was a harsh mistress. Gray and unforgiving, it offered no solace to the weak. Towers of steel and glass scraped the sky, monuments to the wealth of the few. Below, shadows stretched long and cold. They whispered of forgotten dreams and devoured the unlucky souls lost within. Nocturnis was a city of two worlds. In the glittering heart, politicians and industrialists made deals. Money flowed like water, washing away any trace of conscience. But on the edges, in the sprawling slums known as the Shadow District, a different story unfolded. Here, the air hung heavy with despair. Buildings crumbled, forgotten by time and the wealthy alike. The residents of the Shadow District were the forgotten ones, the ones who had slipped through the cracks of society. They lived on the edge of survival, their lives a constant struggle against poverty, violence, and despair. For a young boy named Drako Deluca, the Shadow District was the only world he knew. He had never tasted the sweetness of hope, only the bitterness of loss and the sting of injustice. His world was painted in shades of gray, a reflection of the city he called home. Drako Deluca was a boy haunted by shadows. He was small for his 12 years, his thin frame swallowed by the oversized clothes he wore. His dark hair fell over his eyes, shielding them from the world. He carried himself with a quiet stillness, a shadow flitting through the crowded streets. Orphaned at a young age, Drako lived with his aunt, a woman as cold and unyielding as the city itself. She viewed him as a burden, a mouth to feed in an already meager existence. Her indifference cut deeper than any blade, leaving him feeling invisible and utterly alone. School offered no escape from the harsh realities of his life. The building itself was a testament to the city's neglect, a crumbling edifice that reeked of mildew and despair. The classrooms were overcrowded and underfunded, the teachers weary and disillusioned. Every day, Drako walked a gauntlet of fear and humiliation. A group of older boys, led by the cruel and merciless Gregor, made it their mission to torment him. They were the embodiment of the city's brutality, their laughter echoing through the dusty schoolyard like the cries of vultures. Gregor, with his cruel eyes and sneering smile, took particular pleasure in tormenting Drako. He would shove him into lockers, steal his meager lunch money, and whisper threats in his ear. Draco's silence only seemed to fuel Gregor's cruelty, making him a target for their relentless abuse. Each day, Drako would return home with bruises blooming on his thin arms and a heart heavy with despair. He would retreat to the small, airless room he called his own, seeking solace in the silence. But even in the darkness, he could not escape the whispers of fear and the gnawing emptiness that had taken root within him. One evening, as Drako trudged home from another grueling day at school, a voice stopped him in his tracks. It was a low voice, roughened by age and hardship, yet there was a hint of something else in it, a flicker of something akin to warmth. "Drako Deluca," the voice rasped. "You have your mother's eyes." Drako turned slowly, his gaze falling on an old man sitting on a rickety stoop. The man was shrouded in shadows, his features difficult to make out in the fading light. He wore a long, dark coat that seemed to swallow him whole, and a tattered hat was pulled low over his brow. "Who are you?" Drako asked, his voice barely a whisper. "My name is Elias Crow," the old man replied, a faint smile playing on his lips. "And I knew your parents." Section 5. The Legacy of the Crows. Draco's heart skipped a beat. No one ever talked about his parents. His aunt refused to answer his questions, and the few memories he had of them were fading with each passing year. He had always felt a void in his life, a gaping hole where his parents should have been. You knew my parents?" Drako stammered, his voice trembling with a mixture of hope and trepidation. "Indeed," Elias said, his voice softening. "Your father and I were close friends. We worked together, you see, on something important, something that cost them their lives." Draco's blood ran cold. He had always suspected that there was more to his parents' death than he had been told. His aunt had always insisted it was an accident, a fire that had ripped through their apartment building. But something about her explanation had never sat right with him. Now, looking into Elias's eyes, he knew the truth. Elias reached into his coat and pulled out a small black stone. It was smooth and cold to the touch, and it seemed to pulse with a faint inner light. Drako had never seen anything like it before. This, Elias said, his voice low and urgent, is a Shadow Relic. It was the culmination of your parents' work, a key to a power beyond your wildest imagination. They were betrayed, Drako, murdered for what they knew. This relic is your birthright, and with it, you have a choice to make. Drako stared at the stone, his mind reeling. The weight of Elias's words settled upon him like a physical burden. His parents had been murdered, and this stone, this Shadow Relic, was the key to avenging their deaths. Take the relic, Drako, Elias urged, his voice filled with a strange intensity. Embrace the power that flows through your veins. Avenge your parents and claim your destiny. Drako hesitated, his hand hovering over the stone. He had always been a quiet, timid boy, content to fade into the background. The thought of vengeance, of wielding such power, both terrified and exhilarated him. As if sensing his trepidation, Elias placed a hand on Draco's shoulder. The path ahead will be fraught with danger, young one, he said, his voice grave. But you are not alone. Your parents' legacy lives on in you, and I will guide you, just as I guided them. Drako closed his eyes, his breath catching in his throat. The city's noise seemed to fade away, replaced by a low hum that resonated deep within his bones. He could feel the stone's power thrumming against his skin, calling to something deep within him. The memories of his parents, once faint and fleeting, flared to life with startling clarity. He saw their faces, heard their laughter, and felt the warmth of their love surround him. For the first time in his life, he understood the depth of his loss, the raw, aching void that had haunted him for so long. And with that understanding came a surge of something else, something dark and powerful that rose within him like a tidal wave. Anger, rage, a thirst for vengeance that threatened to consume him whole. Drako opened his eyes, his gaze fixed on the Shadow Relic. It no longer seemed cold and foreign in his hand, but rather an extension of himself, a conduit for the power that surged within him. He could feel it changing him, reshaping him into something different. He looked at Elias, his eyes burning with a newfound resolve. I will learn to control this power, he said, his voice low and steady. I will avenge my parents and bring those responsible to justice. Elias smiled, a slow, knowing smile that held both pride and sorrow. So begins your journey, Drako Deluca, he said, his voice echoing with ancient wisdom. The path ahead will be fraught with danger, but you are not alone. Embrace the shadows, young Shadow Walker. Let them be your weapon, your shield, your destiny. And so, in the heart of the Shadow District, a legend was born. The legend of Drako Deluca, the boy who would become the Shadow Walker, a force to be reckoned with in the dark and unforgiving city of Nocturnis.
Nascosto nei silenzi dove il mondo non guarda, vedo i peccati che l'umanità scarta, promesse spezzate, verità avvelenate. Io sono il giudice delle anime dannate. Non c'è luce senza ombra, non c'è bene senza male. Io sono il filo che bilancia il reale. Non un eroe né un tiranno, solo un fato. Nell'oscurità scrivo il mio mandato. Sono l'ombra che sfida la luce, il coltello che la verità conduce, un giudizio silente che il mondo non vede. Combatto per l'equilibrio tra sogni e mercede. Sono i più indecenti nelle ombre. Mi muovo senza onore o vanto, ma la giustizia che porto è il mio solo incanto. Io cammino tra i vuoti dove nessuno osa. Curo le piaghe con la mano che dosa. Il mio volto è nascosto, il mio nome è paura. Sono il custode della verità più pura. Sono l'uomo nascosti, l'ipocrisia divina. Io spezzo le catene che l'umanità declina. Sono il confine tra caos e ordine, il fuoco nascosto sotto un manto d'ombre. Non un salvatore, ma un'arma silente contro un mondo ipocrita. Io sono il niente. Quando il giorno si spegne, il mondo si placa, l'ombra cammina e la verità si affaccia. Non sarò ricordato, né mai perdonato, ma nell'oscurità l'equilibrio